What's up, everybody? Good morning, and we are looping back around once again after yesterday's videos about the free safety position. Now we're coming back around to positions where there's not really that much of a need, but there might be a little something that we could do to bring everything together for the 2024 season. So we're looping back around to the offense. We're going to take a look at wide receiver today. We're going to take a look at wide receiver, and for obvious reasons, this is not a position we're likely to spend big at, but I want to talk through the scenario where we decide to spend a little bit. Now, real quick, later today is obviously going to be the offensive lineman at the Combine. In fact, I believe it starts in like an hour after the upload of this video. So in an hour, I'm going to go live here on YouTube and X and Facebook, and we're going to watch the offensive lineman Combine portion and see what's up, and try to get a feel for what we're thinking for the 2024 draft. And this offensive line stuff is going to be really important to us, specifically as Seahawks fans, so I think there will be a lot of intrigue today. And then after that stream is over, I'm going to upload the second part of this wide receiver free agency discussion. So that's going to come later this afternoon. Then we'll do the Combine wrap-up, of course, and then we'll go ahead and move along into tomorrow at that point. So going to be an action-packed day, but an hour from now, we're going to be streaming. Show up, have fun, let's figure this out. Okay, so wide receiver, the Seahawks are pretty stacked at wide receiver right now. We got DK Metcalf, really, really good young receiver still a couple years left on his contract. Should be easy to bring back for a third contract if we want to. Well, not easy, but doable, right? You got Tyler Lockett still, 2 more years left on his deal. I understand that there is some desire to move off of him, but it probably cannot happen right now. I think that the play is to let it ride for 2024 with Lockett, see what's up, and then next year you make a decision. You can extend him if he still looks really, really good, but more than likely you move off of him at that point, and then you actually save a lot of money. Right now, moving off of Lockett doesn't save that much money. So realistically, Lockett is still a good player. He still is. He's not what he used to be quite, but he's still good. He's still valuable. He still helps this team win. And then you've got JSN, who had a nice rookie year, looks like a really good young player, going to be a big part of this offense for years to come, going to be one of the better slot receivers in the league very quickly here. He probably already is, realistically, and should be a big part of this new offense with Ryan Grubb. And then for depth, you have Jake Bobo, who also was a rookie last year, had a really nice rookie year, made some key contributions. So you don't really have an issue with your wide receiver depth. And then you even have Derek Young. And Derek Young, I understand that he didn't do anything last year because he was hurt, but there is some exciting stuff about Derek Young. We saw it his rookie year. He's got a unique skill set. We don't even really need to fill out the depth at wide receiver. So this video, what this video is going to discuss is, let's say the Seahawks do move off of Lockett. Let's say they move Lockett. You don't save that much money, so you probably would not then be able to turn around and say, okay, well, now we're going to go spend a ton of money on Mike Evans, or we're going to spend a bunch of money on Odell Beckham, or we're going to throw a bunch of money at whatever superstar wide receiver you want. We're not going to do that. What would probably happen would be you'd say, okay, we've got DK Metcalf, we've got JSN, and we've got Bobo. That's going to be kind of our top 3. And then we need a veteran for depth behind Derek Young, because at that point you don't really have anybody as like wide receiver 3. And you might say, okay, we don't know if Bobo's going to be the real deal when he's asked to do more. So we want, as an insurance policy, a decent veteran. But we can't spend a lot of money because that money needs to go to other players, other positions. So if that is the way the Seahawks decide to do this, there are many veterans out there they could probably bring in on like a 1-year deal and spend very little money and get some degree of decent production. So let's just go through them real quick. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on any one guy because none of these guys are stars. None of these guys are studs. These guys are just kind of viable veterans who belong in this league, and there's not much else to say about them. So first guy up is Paris Campbell, former second-round pick of the Colts. Been kind of a bust. Hasn't worked out. Had one decent season in Indianapolis with Matt Ryan, and that was it. He went to the Giants and barely did anything. 100 yards on 20 catches. It's not easy to do, though. I mean, maybe I should give him some credit for that. It's hard to have 20 catches for 104 yards when you're playing wide receiver. but not a very standout player. But there are some exciting attributes about him. He's got decent size. He's still relatively young. He's going to turn 27. PFF, never been a big fan. But because of his pedigree, Spotrac does think he's going to get like 1 year, $3.5 million. I don't see it. There's just no production here. He had 100 receiving yards last year on a team that was wide receiver starved. Why is this guy going to get 3.5? I think he'd be lucky to get 2.5. And you bring him in on 1 year, 2.5, and it should be okay. Should buy you a little bit of time, and then next year you can go find the long-term wide receiver to actually replace Lockett, unless Bobo has a really good year. Okay, next guy in this tier for me would be Braxton Berrios. This guy's actually made an all-pro team. Now, he did it as a returner, as a special teamer, so it's a little bit different, but he's got some fun skills. Had a nice year with the Jets in 2021, actually, I will say that for him. Other than that, he's just kind of been an anonymous guy. Just a guy who plays a little bit, catches maybe 1 or 2 balls a game, and he doesn't rock the boat, he doesn't move the needle, but he's out there doing his job in a general sense. That's the best you can say about a guy like Braxton Berrios. But the fact that he's offering special teams value is a nice plus. PFF thinks he's passable, nothing stand out, but okay. By the way, 1 year, 1.8 million, not even. 1 year, 1.8, call it. I mean, pretty agreeable, right? You'd be able to take the remaining savings on the Lockett move. I don't know if you would do Lockett post-June 1st or pre-June 1st, but if you do it pre-June 1st, you'd still have a decent amount of money left over to go do something else if you swap out Lockett with Berrios. And I know it wouldn't really be a swap out because Berrios would be theoretically a backup here, but you guys know what I mean. Financially, we swapped him out. All right, this next guy is a little more prolific in the NFL, Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins has actually done some nice things in the NFL. He won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Not that he did a ton to earn it, but he did something. And then in 2022, he actually had a pretty nice season filling in for the injured Hunter Renfrow, I believe. So for filling in for Hunter Renfrow, he actually had a nice year. Caught almost 700 yards worth of balls. And went to Atlanta last year, petered out a little bit. Not good quarterbacks there, that doesn't help. But not quite the big year there. And, I mean, this guy's kind of a nomad. Spent some time in Philly, spent some time in Miami, Raiders, Atlanta. It's been bouncing around. But he has had, in recent memory, a pretty dang good year. 700 yards almost. With a quarterback that I wouldn't exactly call stand out in Derek Carr. Just kind of an okay quarterback, playing alongside Devontae Adams, one of the best receivers in the league. So it's not like they forced him the ball all the time because there was nobody else to throw to. PFF last year thought he played okay. Honestly, most of these receivers that only play a little bit, most of their grades are going to be like this. They're going to be okay, right? Now, this was his 2022 season when he played a lot more. Again, just kind of decent, just kind of passable. Spotrac doesn't think he's going to get much of anything. They think he's going to get like 1 year, 1.5 million. I don't know why he's supposed to get less than Berrios, but it's going to be in this range is the important thing. And again, the goal here is not to find a guy who's your long-term solution at wide receiver. The goal is to find a guy who can give you something you can rely on for passable play for a year while you find out about Bobo, and then you can make a decision next year whether or not Bobo's the guy you're going to put your faith in, or if you're going to go get another better receiver. That's the goal here. That's to keep in mind here. So for 1.4 million, you're going to get your money's worth out of a guy like Mac Hollins. Another guy in this category, because as you can see, there are a lot of guys we're skipping over here because they're just going to cost way too much money to be part of this conversation. I don't think we would cut Lockett and then go break the bank for another receiver, just to be clear. But a guy like Laviska Shenault Jr., of the formerly Jacksonville Jaguars and most recently Carolina Panthers. There is some interesting upside here, but it's been a pretty steep fall to the bottom since he looked pretty good for those really bad Jaguars teams in 2020 and 2021. Like, you take a look at Shenault those first 2 years, he was fairly productive. He wasn't great, but he, with pretty poor quarterback play and pretty bad offensive play around him, produced a decent amount. Then he goes to Carolina, and he's just completely disappeared. He's been completely irrelevant these last 2 years. He's a nothing player at this point. and the Spotrac doesn't even have a value page for him. I don't think he's going to get anything real. I think it's going to be vet min. I think he's a guy who's probably just going to be lucky to be in the NFL still. PFF does think he played okay, but that doesn't really mean anything when he played so little these last 2 years. PFF actually has graded him out well these last 2 years, but what does it mean when you're barely doing anything? The years he actually played a lot, the grades were still pretty decent, but this guy's just kind of getting kicked around now, and he's been completely forgotten about. And this was a draft pick. This was a second-round pick. Second-round pick goes out there, fairly productive, and then the world just forgets about him. I don't know what's up, but if you could get him for the vet min, I think that would be viable. Final guy for this video, RayRay McLoud. Just don't let him return punts, I guess. Been around for a little bit now. He's just turned 27. Been on 4 different teams. You got Buffalo, Carolina, Pittsburgh, San Francisco the last couple years. Been part of a division rival here. Provides value on special teams. All jokes aside, he is a pretty decent special teamer. I know the Super Bowl wasn't so great, but it also isn't completely his fault. Let's be real here. And he fills in nicely as a capable veteran receiver who occasionally enters the game. And I look at this and I go, you're gonna get your money's worth here. What's RayRay McLoud gonna get? $2 million, maybe? I know he played on the Niners last year. Maybe he gets a little bit of a boost from that, but at the same time, are people going to figure out the fact that, you know, these receivers always look a little better than they actually are playing with Shanahan? You'd think so, right? But yeah, that would be another guy that I would consider giving vet min or vet min plus. More guys coming in the next video, but let me know what you think about these guys if you think anything. I know that we aren't looking at the most exciting cut of meat here, but it is a cut of meat that I think needs to be explored. So let me know if any of these guys do anything for you as veteran stopgaps if we move Lockett and feel like we need one more guy on our bench. See you guys later. Go Hawks.